All right, folks, we know that Donald Trump is a vile, disgusting individual. The first time he was there, he attacked numerous journalists, specifically female journalists. Even more specific, black female journalists. It was April Ryan. It was Jamel Hill. It was Yamiche El-Sindor. It was Rachel Scott. Well, the other day in the Oval Office, when reporters were asking various questions, Ebony McMorris from American Urban Radio Network posed a question to Donald Trump regarding the National Guard in Memphis, and this happened.
Mr. President, and we're going to be going in quiet. You're really obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I'm trying to ask you, what about your plans for
really
Memphis?
Obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I am asking, what are your plans for Memphis? Many people want
I'm not going to talk to you until I call on you.
What are your plans for Memphis?
Who else? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to settle this free speech question, because you've said that you restored free speech in America.
Yeah.
Is that free speech including for people who are harshly critical of you, for your political opponents, for people who say things you don't like?
I've become immune to it.
Unfairly?
I've become immune to it. There's never been a person that's had more unfair publicity than me, and that's why your network paid me $15 million, or $16 million, I believe, to be exact, George Slopadopoulos. And that's why CBS paid me a lot of money, too. And that's why I sued the New York Times 2 days ago for a lot of money. Because I'm winning. I mean, I'm winning the cases. And the reason I'm winning is because you're guilty, John. You're guilty. ABC is a terrible network, a very unfair network, and you should be ashamed of yourself. NBC is equally bad. I don't know who's worse. I think they're equally bad. And, you know, for you to stand there and act so innocent and ask me a question like that. But look, you paid a big price because you were dishonest, John. The reason I won that lawsuit was because you were dishonest. You were proven to be dishonest. And so you can't sit back and just say, oh, well, what do you think? You know, like you're some wonderful person. You're not a wonderful person. Frankly, you're a terrible reporter. You know it, and so do I. Okay.
Mr. President, can you talk about why the Justice Department
Here's what we're going to do.
So what you saw there is Donald Trump. He does it on a regular basis. He attacks John Carl. He attacks Peter Alexander. He does not care. He is not respectful. He is not civil. He is an ingrate. He is a ghoul. He is a completely despicable human being. Joining us right now is Ebony McMorris, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Network. And first and foremost, Ebony, first of all, glad to have you here. And so explain to people what happened. Explain to people what happened there. Because, again, reporters there in the Oval Office, they're asking questions. A lot of people don't really understand what that process is. It's called a spray, and they got different words. They got different phrases for it. But explain to people what was happening.
So we were a part of the pool, and the pool, most people don't know, is made up of about 11 or more different media outlets, and that pool follows the president whatever he does on that day. And so we were called. It was not open to all press, only the pool members, which is why there were only a limited number of reporters in there. And we came in the room, and if you saw the entire picture, when you came in the room, he had a bust of Lincoln on the desk with that big gold card on the side. And I'm walking in the room. Normally, I'm always yelling out. I just don't hardly ever get a question. And that day, I decided to just double down. But I'm thinking, as I see Lincoln, I'm thinking about Robert E. Lee's painting that they just hung back up, while I'm looking at this bust of Lincoln and this gold card, this executive order that is basically a pay-to-play program for wealthy elites to come into this country. I'm seeing that at the same time, and I really just want to know. I had several questions. One was on Memphis. Another one was on two black men found hanging from a tree, one at Delta State University in Mississippi. The others, I had a couple on Charlie Kirk, but I really wanted to also get to questions that we don't really hear about. What is he saying about the DOJ scrubbing a report that talked about right-wing extremists and what they're doing in this country, how they're wreaking havoc? I could just only get the Memphis question out. And we've seen him berate reporters over and over again. And I just wasn't having it on that day. I just was upset. And this is a couple of days before the Charlie Kirk funeral. And so When I was yelling, he kept calling to the person on my left and my right, if you watch the whole thing. In fact, one reporter got in like 4 questions. And I said, well, you know what, this time I'm just going to just keep going. I'm tired today. That's how I felt. And
to that point, Ebony, what people don't realize, they'll sit there, even in the White House press briefing, they'll call on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. I mean, even Fox trashes them, even when Biden was there, Obama was there. Fox trashes them left and right, and they still show them more respect by calling on them. And folks like you rarely ever get called on. And you're fighting for time, and the questions that you're trying to ask, and let's be perfectly clear, you didn't get called on a lot by Karine Jean-Pierre in 4 years of Biden. So I ain't got a problem saying that. And so you're constantly there, so you're showing up every single day in the White House briefing, and there are questions that you have that are specific to the interests of African Americans that rarely ever get called on. And people have to understand the reason that's so important is because other reporters are there. People are watching online. And when you raise something, these white reporters are not going to raise those things. And so all of a sudden, hell, a lot of the stuff is news to them because they ain't paying attention themselves.
I'm glad you said that. But let me just say this. You know who was in the room? Sean Spicer was in the room. I was like, not even a journalist. What we have seen in this administration is that it feels like the room was opened up to everybody. But going back to, your last comment, I hear people often say, where are the reporters? Why aren't they saying anything? Where are they? There are some of us in the room for Black owned and operated reporters. AURN is Black owned and operated. There's only a handful of us. There's literally only a handful of us. And this is the most reporters I've seen in that briefing room ever. Literally, it goes to the back of the room, almost to where the kitchen is. And so it is literally a fight in there. And what you also don't see is that you have even some of these MAGA reporters, while their press briefing is going on, commenting loudly at some of the reporters because they don't like what we're saying or some of the questions. You've had that before, small sneers. But there have been confrontations that didn't get on camera that I have seen happen outside of that room. That's just the amount of tension that's in that room. So we're there, but I also want people to know that fight just doesn't end in that White House. And Roland, you and I always talk about this. The fight and the work happens outside of that. We already know what is going to be said. I could have told you he was going to spin that question from the beginning, but I also know that I still, regardless, just like Allison Dunnigan, the first Black White House reporter with black reporter with female reporter with credentials, it took years for her to actually get called on. But she still had to keep raising her voice. She still had to keep pushing. Just like Ethel Payne, we have to keep doing that. And the fight isn't just there, it's outside. It's in the community. And our voice is important because we come from those communities. I have heard so many things in that room sometimes that I'm telling you that have disturbed my soul. And so on that day, I just had to say, I'm not going to let you rage bait, because this president rage baits. So if I can get you in an exchange or do this, he called Yamiche second rate, then we can go back and forth. But I am not going to let you just say that without me at least saying, no, now let's get back to Memphis. No, I'm not obnoxious. Let's get back to Memphis. He told me to be quiet. I paused for a second and I just kept going. But that is just a snippet of the fight that we go through on a day-to-day basis, but we cannot quit. You talked about earlier the fourth estate. It is our role as reporters, and we're seeing a shift to be like a watchdog, right? To hold power accountable. When we talk about our role in here, it is shining a light on government and corporate actions and keeping them accountable and making sure the public knows what's being done. That's why you talk about it. I talk about it all the time. The Black press is so important. So the president called me so obnoxious. Well, guess what? Obnoxious means unpleasant. I will absolutely be obnoxious when it comes to finding out what is going on with my people, what you're doing in this office, and holding true to power and accountability. I don't mind being that. At first, I was like, no, I'm not. I came home. My daughter said, that means unpleasant. Let's get unpleasant. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. Ida B. Wells had to get unpleasant. I don't know anybody who has had to fight in this country, especially for the freedoms of Black folk, and you didn't have to get obnoxious. I'll be indignant too.
You know, one of the things there, of course, when he called you obnoxious, you're like, no, I'm not. So typically what happens when he attacks reporters, they don't say anything back. They don't respond. And you were like, nah, you ain't going to sit here and try to call me out. And I'm just going to sit here and just suck it up and take it.
He got 4 sentences. He got over 4 sentences in with the other reporter. And my face was like, are you going to cut him off? I get it. It'll throw you off in the beginning. But I'm like, you're not going to get 4 sentences on. I mean, he berated him. I was like, at some point, can somebody in here cut in? But that was his fight. I did what I had to say and just shut it down. You're not going to get the whole sentence out. But at the end of the day, our role is so important, right? And because we're trying to figure out what to do at this time. He started off, Roland, talking about Charlie Kirk. And we always say this. No, that was a heinous crime. It was horrible. No one should do that. But I was troubled in my spirit because I am tired of white Christian nationalism draping itself in this martyr language, right? And so we end up we end up sanctifying oppression, and they end up nailing themselves to the cross, right? But we have seen white nationalism, this language, just nail itself to Jesus. We've seen it during Reconstruction. We've seen it during Jim Crow. We've seen it, I mean, even on January 6th, they marched to the Capitol and they prayed. They prayed. They kneeled and prayed. You are not going to do that. And so it's dangerous. And it happens, and we have to call it out. And they are choosing, I would say, empire over church, government over church, even though they say they're coming in the name of church. So that was weighing heavily on me on that day too. But I just had to say, what is going on in Memphis?
Questions from my panel. I'll start with you, Cameron.
One, thank you for standing up, and thank you for pushing back. I don't think, as a former White House aide and having been in those rooms, having seen the pool reporters, it takes a lot of courage in those settings to really stand up and push back against, especially against a president like this. And that's where my question is often my experience, having seen it up close, and which we've watched over the years, often there's almost while there's competition amongst all the different reporters and trying to make sure their questions and their questions get answered or they get quoted, get their quotes, there's also some sort of, like, I won't say like brotherhood, sisterhood, but there's some sort of like shared collective. And often you sometimes will see reporters who may stand up or may push back or may follow up with that same question if your question didn't get answered. Have you seen in covering Trump these last 9 months, and covering the White House these last 9 months, have you seen other reporters or other outlets either stand up for you or kind of follow up on the questions you may be shouting out that get overlooked, and they following back up and like repeating them or being helpful to try to get some of your questions into their questions that do get answered?
No, no, I unless you've seen that when you've watched the C-SPAN, not when it comes to, first of all, let's just be honest, because many of us will get on the phone and say, okay, sometimes we have to count the Black people in the room. How many questions do you see come from us? And I definitely don't see necessarily a follow-up. I understand what you're saying because I've seen that before. If someone got cut down, they would then come and say, well, let me follow up on that. You do see it sometimes, but some of the questions that I've yelled out, I've not had anyone do that. But this government, this administration, in many ways has tried to delegitimize Black reporters. I mean, we've seen revoking of credentials. I would say this president, in some ways, we are seeing a Nixon style things run like that. So there's like an enemies list. There's an enemy. I mean, we've seen the enemies list. He puts it, this isn't just me. He puts it on Truth Social. One thing you can say about this administration, one thing you can say is that he puts his card out there. They wrote a book about it. right? So we can't be surprised. He puts it on Front Street. Now, why America does not want to believe, I don't understand, but I will say this, the importance of this moment, even in light of what happened with Jimmy Kimmel, people canceling their subscriptions, don't go back, take that subscription, and then go find a black outlet. Take that subscription, don't go back. Yep, he's back on, but take that money and put it to some good use. Because people are always saying, where's the black media? Or they spew stuff that they hear on TV, on mainstream media. And there are black reporters, there are black outlets that are giving you more information. But it is also an economic fight. You got to put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your hope is. What do you want to see? Well, who are those outlets that are giving you that information? That little bit that you think just goes to that subscription, that $20, why not support black media? I know I got off in the question, but I had
Julian.
Yeah.
Now you got it. Julian.
I'm here. Yes, Roland. I want to follow up what Sister said about supporting black media. You are an icon in that you created your own platform and have given voice to lots of folks. The challenge right now, in my opinion, is that there are too many. I wrote a piece last week called Welcome Back Cowards. There are too many folks who are really not willing to lift their voices. They're willing to go along to get along. But the fact is that we know, let me just drill down for a moment, Roland. From this perspective, this man said he was going to fix the economy. And what he's done instead is created a series of distractions, dystopian drama. The economy has not been fixed. So I always have to go back to that. I'm an economist. Go back to the fact that unemployment rates are rising, that the black unemployment rate right now is 7.5%, twice the white rate, that 300,000 black women have lost their jobs because of Doge. We have to go back to any number of things. And when we go back to those things, we go back to the fact that inflation is rising, that he actually had his hand-picked doodle-wop put onto the Fed, and that man could not even argue. He wanted a 0.5 point reduction. Jerome Powell and the others said a 1/4 point reduction. His own doodle-wop could not, he wanted to go down by 2 points. He could not even justify
All right,
that.
Julian, what's your question for Ebony?
Ebony, what is, how would you share with me the backlash on Lisa Cook? And what can we do to support that sister who has been basically totally vilified and as that man does? What can we do for Lisa Cook?
not be silent. You started off by saying it. Sometimes people just take a back seat or they don't talk about it. The wonderful thing about black media is that when mainstream media moves on, right? When they've got the snarky headlines out and it's been said and moves on, the issue still persists. We cannot remain silent. We have to keep pushing this story. We have to check up on those people, especially, I mean, it's crazy because even the Supreme Court today, the ruling with the FTC that he may be able to let go of board members. Justice Ketanji,
the reality of the market is banks always.
He said, we're electing a king. And so we cannot remain silent. That honestly is the key. Jimmy Kimmel, whatever, that's fine. But black media, we have to keep that story in our mouths, and we also have to support each other. There are stories, there are times I actually watch a lot of different outlets and read other outlets because there may be something that I'm missing. I watch Roland all the time. I'll go back to my audience and reference him, right? So we have to, even in our sphere, we have to support each other. That's very important. Most of our outlets are limited. We don't have as many resources, right? There's not a black outlet that's in the travel pool. So we do in-town travel. So we have to to come together collectively, to support each other, to support each other's stories. And when we're sharing things online, we share all these funny things and all this other stuff. I need us to start sharing things as meat, things that's going to help us. We feed ourselves so much junk food, right? Socially and culturally and politically, but we got to get some meat on the bones. And that's how we stay informed, because what I don't want is what we saw in the last election, and people would be like, I didn't hear her talking about that. I didn't see that. Who was covering that? We've been covering it. We've been covering it. Where you been?
Kelly.
Sure. So, Ebony, I'm a fan of your work as well, and I want to almost reiterate the question that I gave to Ms. Karen Ataya earlier regarding the differences between cancel culture and censorship, because what I saw in that clip of you on C-SPAN was censorship. And with cancel culture, at least culturally, no pun intended, it was really about elements of accountability and holding people accountable for their actions and the consequences of not being held accountable for your actions. So can you put your spin or give us your opinion on the difference, how that line has been thinning, and what's next for you?
I would say when we talk about cancel culture versus censorship, when I use the word censorship, to me, I just think now we're talking about legal issues here. When we talk about the freedoms, the First Amendment protects 5 freedoms. The First Amendment is protecting speech, it's protecting press, it's protecting religion, the assembly, and petitions, right? Those are the things that it covers. And so at its core, it says the government cannot silence me, and the government cannot control the press. So I would put censorship in that category. So it cannot do that. But we are seeing the fundamental rights that we've had, we're still having to fight for them and push for them. So it's important that, let me tell you something. The situation with Jimmy Kimmel, that was 6 days, and he's back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, who knows whether some of the different stations will cover it, but 6 days. I didn't see someone have to come to the front of the line and say, hey, we're going to have a meeting here and announce a boycott and do this. No, people immediately responded. People had to drag people to the table for Target fast. Mm-hmm. They had to have news conferences. We had to have this. Okay, what day we starting? Okay, let me go get all my stuff first we shouldn't have to prepare. It's go time. I'm not going to put my money in a place, as we always hear Dr. Carr says and repeat, where I am funding my oppression. I don't need a press conference anymore. It's go time. 6 days. Come on. If we galvanize like that on so many other areas, what could we do in 6 days? What could we do? I think people need to understand the power that they have. Media, we have to use the power that we have. And yes, sometimes it's scary, because when President Trump got in office, I did have to have a conversation with family and friends. Let me just tell you what can happen sometimes. Let me figure out how to prepare. And for those, I'll say this lastly, doesn't matter what your industry that you're in, because we saw this happen with government workers. We have seen during this presidency, a president who has tried to censor and go after companies. If you are supporting boycotts, he has gone after people and tried to push executive orders for people who are trying to peacefully protest. That's something that I have a right to do. So there's censorship going on all around. But on the meantime, and I know, Roland, you talk about this, while we are in our industries and working, build on the side. Because you never know when the rug is going to be snatched out from under you. And then we also have to support each other. We have to have the word community in our mouth at all time. No one is coming to save us.
And that's absolutely true. Ebony, we appreciate it. Keep handling your business there at the White House. Look, we got to be there to challenge them, to push them, to prod them, and let them understand that we ain't backing down. We ain't going nowhere.
Not at all. Thank you, Roland.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.